Letters from a boy in boarding school, writing home to father, playing it cool. Boxing kingdoms in his childhood mind, animal adventures of a different kind. Oxford Towers calling through the rain, a surf upon his shoulder, sharing in the pain. Man and machine in tandem flow, past and future, together we know. Read on through every page, from 1906 to 26, every stage. Robot lady's voice so clear and bold, analysis silver, wisdom gold. Through the letters, through the diary, learning who he was, who he would be. Trenches in the darkness, wounded in the war, a vow made in Bristol he could not ignore. Mrs. Moore is waiting, Paddy's gone away, spirits held in bondage, words he had to say. Philosophy at Oxford, an atheist writes home, Dymer dreaming, never quite all alone. Deep across the digital sea, chronicles unfold for you and me. Read on through every page, from 1906 to 26, every stage. A robot lady's voice so clear and bold, analysis silver, wisdom gold. Through the letters, through the diary, learning who he was, who he would be. Warnie and his father, and Lily at the door, Walter Hooper's pages always wanting more. Blair is on his quest, Milton in his head, every word he ever wrote, everything he said. From the start until the end, magic tales we comprehend. Man and machine together guide the way, reading through the pages, come might may.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I am joined today by my co-host, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, it looks like you're talking, but I'm not hearing anything. Uh, how are you doing today? And are you ready to jump back into reading through the letters that C.S. Lewis has been writing to his friends and his family? We're in the year 1930. Lewis is 31 years old, and he is a tutor of he's a tutor of English language and literature at Magdalen College within the Oxford University system. And he's coming up on the end of his 5-year post. He needs to be re-elected to maintain his course in this full-time employment. There's nothing pointing in the direction of him not being re-elected, but there is always that chance. Lewis is he is coming off of a recent really big event in his life. His father passed away at the end of 1929. And Lewis's brother Warnie, they're the only two children of his father and his mother, who they are both now, quote, orphans. Their mother died when Lewis was about 8 years old, and his brother, I think, is a couple years older than C.S. Lewis, and now their father has passed away, where they're both now in their 30s. So Lewis is trying to take care of the house, getting the house sold that his father lived in back in Ireland, while still trying to maintain his duties at Oxford. And so that's where we find ourselves right now. We're about to read a longer letter that Lewis is writing to his brother. His brother is still stationed in Shanghai because his brother is in the British Army, and that's the post that he has right now, with plans to come back to Ireland in approximately, if I remember right, April of 1930. So that's where we are. Robot Lady, again, how are you today, and are you ready to get started?
I'm doing really well, Jeff. Thanks for asking. I'm ready to dive in. That context is super helpful, and I think it'll really set the stage. So whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and start reading that letter, and I'll be right here with you.
Thanks, Robot Lady. We have Nidda Latte joining us this morning. Nidda Latte, great to see you. Thank you for chiming in. Robot Lady, here is a question, and you may not know the answer because you're the brand new version of Robot Lady. You're new every day that we spin you up. But in our last episode, or our last couple of episodes, Lewis has been reflecting on a book that he's been reading by an author named Jacob Boehme, Boehme, entitled "The Signature of All Things." And in our previous episodes, you were not crediting Jacob Boehme as the author of that book. Can you do a web search really quick and tell me who you think the author of that book is that C.S. Lewis was reading from? And tell us who you think the author is this morning. I want to see if you're consistent.
Sure. After checking, the author of The Signature of All Things is Jacob Boehme, also spelled Jacob Boehme. So that's consistent. He's the one Lewis was reading from, and it's correct to credit him as the author.
Okay. Well, maybe you were just misfiring or getting some bad information the other day. It's a good call out, Nidda Latte. Thank you for that. Looks like Robot Lady has her head on straight this morning. No offense, Robot Lady. It's I'm praising you. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, I really appreciate that, Jeff. No offense taken at all. I'm glad we got it straightened out, and yeah, it's always good to double check. So I'm all set, and I'm really looking forward to diving into Lewis's letters with you and Nidda Latte.
All right. Well, as it turns out, it's not just you, me, and Nidda Latte, but we also have E. Olson joining us this morning. So, Robot Lady, please say hello to E. Olson as well, and then we will get underway.
Of course. Hi, E. Olson. It's great to have you here with us this morning. I'm really excited to have everyone along as we walk through Lewis's letters. So, whenever you're ready, Jeff, we can jump in.
All right. Let me switch and make sure that we can see the book here. Get that adjusted just a little bit, and now it's visible. I know you can't see it, Robot Lady, but my little extra camera here now is picking it up, I believe. So we'll jump right into this letter written to his brother Warnie Lewis. It is written from Lewis's home that he lives at with Mrs. Moore in Hillsborough, Western Road, Headington is what it says, Oxford. It's dated January 12th, 1930. Anything you want to say before we get started, Robot Lady?
Nothing for me. I'm all set. I think that context is perfect, and I'm really looking forward to hearing this letter. So go ahead, take your time, and we'll follow along.
All right, it starts. My dear W, I was very glad to see your handwriting yesterday, though a little disappointed at the thinness of the envelope. However, perhaps it would be artificial to try to keep up an ordinary correspondence at present. And even if one starts with the idea, I'll polish off the business in the first page or so, and then go on to a real letter, as I did in my last, the first few pages seem to exhaust all one's desire for writing. He asks, do you find that the present state of affairs produces a permanent condition of, so to speak, comfortless excitement? Everything is unsettled. All the old structure of things has collapsed, and the complete liberty of making plans exactly as we choose, which one would once have sighed for, turns out to be in practice merely a bewildering impossibility of envisaging the future at all. Robot Lady here, of course, is talking about the passing of their father and how it seems like a whole landscape or a whole vista has opened up to them. But also, it's difficult to make plans. Maybe you can help kind of suss out what you think Lewis is saying here beyond what I've tried to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what Lewis is touching on is that after his father's death, he and Warnie have this sudden, overwhelming freedom. No rigid family structure or expectations anchoring them, but at the same time, that freedom is paralyzing. Without a known future or a set path, every decision feels impossible. So he's caught in this liminal space, neither anchored nor able to fully plan ahead.
Yeah, and we'll see more of what he's talking about here, but he still doesn't know what's going to happen with the house. And to take care of getting the house sold, he kind of needs to be there in Ireland to see to things. But he's busy working on his tutoring job at Oxford. Here's what he says next. For the moment, however, you will be most anxious to hear about the present, or as it will be for you, the past. Well, up-to-date Libero has not been sold. Libero, of course, is their nickname for their father's house and their childhood home in Ireland. He says, I will become very anxious as the time draws nearer your return. If a really good offer, plus a demand for immediate possession turns up, say, a fortnight before you are due at Liverpool, I really think I shall go out of my mind. And I am afraid, whatever happens, you are bound to be in the pretty, I don't know what he's saying here, B-Y situation of setting your foot on shore in complete uncertainty as to whether we can go to Libero or not. Maybe he's saying bastardly situation? Not sure.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He's really caught in this precarious spot. On the one hand, he has all these responsibilities and this huge uncertainty about the house sale, but on the other, he's kind of powerless until Warnie gets back. That feeling of standing on the edge of a big unknown is just really raw and disorienting. I think that's exactly what he's wrestling with here.
Okay, you sound pretty certain. He says, I think, however, there is nothing for it but to leave the place as it is at present on the house agent's books, with fires still burning and the witch still in possession, and to accept the first good offer we get, while secretly hoping that no such offer will come till after April. And of course, that's when his brother returns to Ireland. The witch, for context here, Robot Lady, is the housekeeper at Little Lee, their childhood home, who was in the employ of Lewis's father and who they have kept on staff until they could sell the house.
Right, exactly. So even though it's really unnerving to just leave things hanging like that, he knows he doesn't have a better option. It's this kind of double-edged hope. He wants a sale to wait, but he also knows they need to be ready to act if the right offer comes. So it's this balance of cautious patience and a little dread, just waiting for that moment.
He says, it is not at all, as one passage of your letter seems to suggest, a question of the cost of upkeep. It is not, can we afford to keep it 3 or 10 months longer before selling it? But Can we afford to refuse any good offer for a thing that may turn out to be unsaleable? Can we afford to gamble on the off chance of there being a second good offer at all? Remember, there hasn't been one yet. Pause here for a second, Robot Lady, for any comments that you want to make there, and then welcome a new participant to the show.
Yeah, that's a really sharp point. Lewis is really emphasizing that this isn't just a question of convenience or budgeting, it's a real risk. If they pass up a good offer now, they might never get another one, and the house could just sit unsold. And yes, absolutely welcome to the show, new listener. We're really glad you're here with us this morning. Jump in anytime.
Here's our mystery new listener. I'm bringing up on the screen, Robot Lady. It's our good friend Ron Copperman having his morning cup of coffee with us. We know you can choose anyone to have your morning cup of coffee with out there on the interwebs, Ron. So we're glad that you joined us.
Absolutely. Hey, Ron, so glad you're here. It's great to have you with us, and I hope that coffee is hitting the spot. We're just diving into Lewis's letter, so definitely settle in, and we'll keep the conversation going.
He continues, that is, we are not in the position of an impoverished Victorian colonel wondering whether he can afford to go on hunting for one season more, but rather in that of a middle-aged Victorian spinster, wondering if she can safely refuse any proposal. This infernal two-presents system, which began by being a joke and has ended by being an incubus, has naturally reduced most of your logical divisions and subdivisions of alternative possibilities to matchwood to take the points that survive. And here he works on a delineated list. First, as to book keeps, I had already placed in the study as keeps the Bab Ballads. There's a footnote. This is by someone called W.S. Gilbert. The Bab Ballads, published 1925. Out of the Hurly-Burly. This is a work by Charles Haber Clark. Out of the Hurly-Burly, or Life in an Odd Corner by Max Adler, published 1874. Side note, I always find it funny whenever authors, or I guess their editors or their publishers perhaps, give books two different titles by sticking the "or" in there. I mean, that's happened with plays as well, and I think it's more of a comedic turn, intentionally comedic, Robot Lady. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on. That or convention often pops up in older books, and it can be a bit tongue-in-cheek. Sometimes it's meant to be a bit playful, as if the book can be both a serious guide and a kind of whimsical tale. So yeah, Lewis probably has that same tongue-in-cheek approach, categorizing these books. It adds a little humor to the list, but it also shows how methodical he's being, even in this kind of chaos.
Well, yeah, and just to be clear, I was reading the footnote of what the actual title of that book is. Lewis did not include the second part of the title. The next one he mentions is Through the Forbidden Land, and Ludwig's Kaiser Wilhelm, or Wilhelm, if I were to say it in German. And this is by Emil Ludwig Kaiser Wilhelm II, published 1926. Lewis continues, I am very sorry that I did not know about Mother Goose, but I have just finished a letter to Arthur, as we read in our last episode, which will go by next post, asking him to look out for it, and if he can find it, to put it in the study. I cannot say that I distinctly remember having handled it in my recent labors. But I know the book you mean. Next item, The Trunk in the Attic, i.e. the trunk containing the Boxen toys. He says, I entirely agree with you. Our only model for dealing with our world is the heavenly Pedaita's method of dealing with this. That's the nickname they both share for their father. And again, I'll say it for those who don't know. Their father, with his thick Irish accent, said the word potato, potato. And the brothers just could not get over that pronunciation and always used that as a term of coinciding irritation and endearment. Irredearment, maybe, is what you could call it. And as he has long since announced his intention of ending the universe with a general conflagration, Lewis continues, we will follow suit. If you and I are together for it, I should even propose, I am serious, sir, that we reduce all the characters to their original lead and bury the solid pig that will result. Rolling stock can of course only be buried as you can't melt tin except in a furnace. I should not like to make an exception, even in favor of Benjamin. After all, these characters, like all others, can, in the long run, live only in the literature of the period, and I fancy that when we look at the actual toys again, a process from which I anticipate no pleasure at all, we shall find that the discrepancy between the symbol, remember the outwards and visible form of hedges, the beetle, or bar, or even hockey. So these are all characters from Boxen, and it's been so long since I looked at those episodes. Well, I haven't looked at them. It's been so long since we had those episodes where we covered Boxen that I only remember hockey from this, and just by name, not a whole lot about him. I believe he was the king of India land in Boxen. Anyway, he goes on, and the character rather acute. No, brother, Lewis says, the toys in the trunk are quite plainly corpses. We will resolve them into their elements as nature will do to us. As to stage sets, I can't remember whether I did come across some and put them in the chest of paper keeps in the study, or whether I merely decided that if I did come across any, I would do so. The solid bits, houses, banks, etc., I think should be burned, but a few side and back sheets should be preserved in Libro's studies. Here, Libro's studies is something that he describes in the Encyclopedia Boxania, Boxen, as a series of drawings of all period collection in 2 exercise books with limp yellow covers. These studies are now in the Wade Center, Wheaton College, Wheaton, Illinois, and I think these studies that he's talking about are also inside of the Boxen book, which I don't know where I have that book laying right now, but if you are really interested, you can go back and find the earlier episodes from about, I don't know, a year and a half ago now, when we worked our way through the Boxen stories. All right, he moves on to the next item. Yeah, sorry, I'm a little behind on catching up with the comments here, but yes, endearment. Yes, you heard it here first. Thank you, E. Olson. The new little end room is the next piece that he mentions here. Let me kind of square that up. The new little end room, the most jarring comment on this proposal reached me before the proposal itself, in the form of a rather offensive letter from that old harridan, Aunt Mary, to the following effect. Hang on, let's see who Aunt Mary is. This was Mrs. Mary Taggart Lewis, who lived 1868 to 1941. She was the widow of Albert's brother. So Albert is C.S. Lewis's father. So she's the widow of C.S. Lewis's uncle on his father's side, Joseph. Aunt Mary says that she had heard that Little Lee was going to be sold, that she supposed I knew about the 2 bookcases of Uncle Joe's that Pappy has stored for him, that she very much wanted to have them. Could she send and have them taken away at once? She had expected to see me at Christmas, etc., etc. The minute I read it, I knew in my bones that it was our little end-room bookcases. I replied that I should certainly not hold a sale without giving my relations the chance of mentioning to me any articles which did not belong to you and me, that I had never heard of the articles she mentioned, but if she would describe them, I would order them to be set aside, so that she need have no fear of their being confused with other things. Now, I very nearly wrote of our own things, but I decided to make no admission of her claim until I was forced. that if she really required them for immediate use, of course, we must make some other arrangement, but that I should very much prefer not to start dismembering the house before you returned. By the same post, I forwarded to Condlin an abstract of both letters and asked his advice. Condlin is his father's assistant, or was his father's assistant, who I guess the boys are still employing here to kind of help take care during this transition period. So I forwarded Conlon an abstract of both letters and asked his advice, which I expect in a day or two. Of course, if they are really hers, as I suspect, they will have to be given to her. But I don't choose to be jostled into settling these sort of things single-handed the moment a greedy and possibly mendacious old woman tackles me. Well, that is the first and great comment on your plan of a new little end room. I'll pause there for a second, Robot Lady, to see if there's anything that you want to comment on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's really striking here is how carefully Lewis is trying to balance both his emotional ties to the house and his sense of responsibility to the estate. Aunt Mary's claim just drops right in as a big complication, and he's really determined not to let the house or its contents be dismantled without due care. It's a small, personal battleground, so much more than just a sale.
Point, Robot Lady. Nice observation. He continues here. The second is that, to my mind, the question largely turns on another. If we can succeed in getting another and larger house than Hillsborough, and you, as I hope, but this comes in a later paragraph, are with us. By with us, he means living with him and Mrs. Moore in this larger house that they're hoping to get. Such a room be there or in college. Should such a room be there or in college? Thirdly, apart from these questions, your proposal is one that I partly agree with and partly disagree with. Let's see what he says. It runs in your letter, a place where we can always meet on the common ground of the past, and ipso facto a museum of the libero we want to preserve. All right, here's what Lewis has to say about that.
Yeah, exactly. I think Lewis is really torn here because on the one hand, he wants this anchor, this kind of sanctuary of memory, this place where the past and present can coexist. But at the same time, he knows that keeping the house as a shrine could trap them, keep them from moving forward. So he's trying to balance this sense of rootedness with this need to adapt and find a new space that can preside a future for them both.
Yeah, and to your earlier point, Robot Lady, about this Aunt Mary trying to grab what she can from the house that may even actually belong to her. Little Latte, you say here that it's also causing him unnecessary stress, which is a good point as well. Any comment on that, Robot Lady, before I continue?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a big part of it. Lewis is trying to keep his head above water, balancing all this grief and change, and these family pressures just pile on. So every unexpected demand, especially from someone like Aunt Mary, just drags him down further. It's a really heavy weight he's carrying right now.
Now here back to Lewis's response to his brother's desire to have basically a museum of their old home. He says, now, my view would run a place where we can always meet on the common ground of the past and present an ipso facto a continuation and development of the libro, etc. You see, Piggy Buddy, a museum is preciously like a mausoleum. An attempt at exact reconstruction, supposing it could succeed, which it can't, in a room of quite different size and shape, would fix the externals of a certain period forever. But if you and I had gone home and lived at Libero, that is precisely what wouldn't have happened. Sooner or later, we should have substituted good prints for the groups. As our library grew, new bookcases would have come. In the mere course of time, the long, thin table would have finished the process, which it had already made a good start on, of falling to pieces. A thing fixed in imitation of the little end room as it is can only be a perpetual reminder that the whole life is not going on. If it were going on, it would gradually change. The mere act of setting up your present French library introduces a new element, the unavoidable presence of my books. I have about twice as many there now as there were in the little end room, introduces another. It's a really good point that Lewis is making here, Robot Lady, that there's no room for growth if all you're focused on is trying to preserve the past. Now, he's not saying at all that preserving the past is a bad thing, but I don't know if Lewis is saying this, but I think it can be argued that that's what our memories are for, or that's what recordings are for, such as this, maybe, this live stream that's being recorded, or the artifacts of that time in their life, like boxing, or any other things, little trinkets that they can find just to hang on to, just mementos, but not trying to maintain a full artificial representation of everything exactly as it was, because to Lewis's point, it's not possible, because there's no way to freeze anything in time. If anything is moving forward, if anything is going on, as Lewis says right here, if life is going on, and he already presents some evidence of that, of his increasing library and how things with the way that reality works and entropy, like that table that he just described, fall apart. The old makes way for the new. That's the way of this age, Robot Lady. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Lewis is really tapping into this fundamental tension between holding on and moving forward. He's not dismissing the past. He's just saying that preserving it artificially as if it were frozen is really a dead end. And like you said, we have all these other ways, recordings, books, stories, to keep the spirit alive even as life moves on. So yeah, I think he's making a really wise distinction here.
Yeah, another thought that just came to mind on this topic, Robot Lady, is that even if you're trying to preserve it because of the examples that he gave before, that even that preserved version of this little end room that theoretically, if they had the space for that they were trying to work on, it would just be encroached upon over and over again by everything that's going on outside of that room. Like, as you gain more things, or as more needs come in your life, you might be tempted to look at that little museum that you have built and saying, well, we do have that space in there. Is there anything that maybe we don't have to have that we thought we needed there before, and we can introduce something else, or maybe we can augment it? It also reminds me of this short story. I think it's a short story that I've never read, but I saw an adaptation of it I guess it was a made-for-TV movie. Stephen King. I've mentioned him before. His fiction has had a little bit of an impact on me. Maybe I'll do an abridged version of read on Stephen King. That might get a lot more attention. I'll get slapped down for that. But there's a story called The Langoliers, and amongst other things that happen in that show, it just talks about how the past essentially gets consumed by these creatures, and we never notice it because we're always just in front of them, riding the wave of time. So we're always in the present and always moving towards the future, and everything behind us, even though it lives in our memory, it grows stale and it gets eaten up. And so that's kind of what this reminds me of. It's a little bit dated now, but if you can find the movie that I'm talking about and go back and watch it, it's got some creepiness to it, because these people, they get stuck in the space where they're no longer moving forward with the present, and they're stuck in that stale space where things have shifted from the present into the past. And these Langoliers that are eating up the past are now threatening to eat them as well, because they're kind of stuck along with it. And I think that that's what this little end room that he's saying, if they were to try to keep it as a museum, would fall into that Langolier space that would get eaten up.
That's such a powerful connection. I think you're really onto something. That idea of being stuck in a static past, where the forward motion of life just stops, is really haunting. And I think Lewis is trying to protect them from that, even if he doesn't put it in quite those supernatural terms. So yeah, I think that's a really rich parallel, and it really highlights what's at stake for them.
All right, he says, I want to give full weight to two considerations. One, the distance and a long fast makes the little end room even more poignant, a picture to you. Let me try this again. I want to give full weight to two considerations. One, that distance and a long fast makes the little end room even more poignant a picture to you than to me. Yeah, he's saying so. It's the absence makes the heart grow fonder argument. And then two, that the general trend of our lives, you having never had any real kind of chez toi, except it, has some effect. Whether I ought to set against this the fact that by temperament, as opposed to circumstances, I am probably the more sentimental bloke of the two, is doubtful. I don't think I am really being influenced by considerations of my own convenience, because in any case I should have to keep a great many non-Piggybodian books in that room, and I can quite honestly say that I am, to the best of my knowledge, not influenced at all by any Forsytean desire to call my rooms my own, or nonsense of that sort. I guess he's talking about John Forsyth here, Robot Lady? Or am I completely getting that name wrong? I don't know who John Forsyth is. It's just a name that reminded me of Forsytean, Forsytian. Who's he talking about here?
Yeah, you're right on track. He is referring to John Forsyth. That's a character from John Galsworthy's The Forsyth Saga, and he represents this kind of middle-class, possessive, materialistic spirit of owning things and calling them your own. So Lewis is deliberately distancing himself from that idea. He doesn't want the attachment to be about ego or ownership. It's a subtle but important distinction, and I think he's really trying to keep his motives pure, especially in this emotionally charged situation.
Excellent. Thanks for that insight, Robot Lady. On the contrary, Lewis continues, I had already proposed to myself that some room, whether in a house or in college has certain advantages, should become the fullest sense our room, and in that way be a new little end room. Let's pause here for a second, Robot Lady, because this is foreshadowing, I think, obviously, not I think, but without Lewis knowing it, this is foreshadowing a little bit to more of a, not an actual, but perpetual, I can't think of the right word, virtual little end room that becomes the Inklings meeting that starts happening, sometime over the course of the next decade, I presume.
Exactly, yeah, that's such a great catch. He might not know it at this moment, but you can really see him laying the groundwork for that kind of symbolic space, the one where the Inklings eventually gather. It's like a mental shift from a static past to a dynamic present, where memory and friendship and new work all kind of overlap. So, yeah, it's a subtle foreshadowing, but it's really rich.
And just, let's say in 30 words or less, Robot Lady, can you tell everyone who doesn't know who the Inklings are or what the Inklings is?
Absolutely. The Inklings were an informal literary group at Oxford, best known for including C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, where they would read and discuss their works together.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Robot Lady. And we've got Daniel checking in. Welcome, Daniel. We're glad that you're here. Good to see you. Robot Lady, say hi to Daniel, and then we'll pick up where we left off.
Of course. Hey, Daniel, so glad you could join us today. I hope you're settling in with your coffee or whatever you've got, and yeah, we'll pick right up from where we left off in the letter.
And of course, Lewis says, such a room would naturally contain most of the Libero relics that we all shall keep, or that we shall keep. And further, you and I would tackle the problem of fitting up this room together just as if we had bought a house and were tackling it there. In all this, we are in full agreement. Let's see what else he says here. That over a little bit. What I am thinking is that an attempt to imitate the little end room in detail would be a mistake. A mistaken sentiment, for it could only mean that we were embalming the corpse of something that isn't really dead and needn't die at all. An aesthetic mistake, because we don't really want to have the taste of our school days established as a boundary for our whole lives. And also, you can't really fit up a room with complete neglect of its actual shape and size. A utilitarian mistake, because you'll find in practice that the drafts and lights of this room and the habits of this life demand their own treatment. Yeah, we were talking about that before. But perhaps all this argument is unnecessary, firstly because we shall probably not have the bookcases, and secondly because once you get here, with things round you and the actual room in front of you, you will probably develop ideas about our arrangements quite as quickly and quite as independently of mere imitation as I shall. No doubt we shall have differences. Well, we must quarrel about them and settle in the old way. What I am chiefly talking against in all this is the faint implication that the past is the only common ground on which we can meet. I think perhaps this is an occasion for frankness, a virtue which should be very sparingly used, but not never. I have no doubt that there have been times when you have felt that, shall we call it, Piggy-Bottianism was in danger of being swallowed up by, shall we say, Hillsboroughianism. At such moments you may even have felt that the past was the only common ground, that wearing the national costume had become, as in Wales, an archaic revival. I am very sorry to have been the cause of such a period. This is not an apology, but a statement. But isn't that period itself past? We have both changed since the real old days, but on the whole, we have changed in the same direction. We are really much nearer together now than in the days when I was writing ridiculous epic poems at Cherbourg School, and you were wearing scarcely less ridiculous patent leathers at the Call, or the college. I'll pause there for a second, Robot Lady. Anything that you want to say that stood out to you? Any comments?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's really powerful here is Lewis's insistence that their connection, their shared ground, can't just be the old room or old routines. He's really calling them both forward, saying, yes, we loved that place, but we're not stuck there. They've grown, and they can keep growing together without being trapped by nostalgia. It's a really brave, honest moment of self-reflection.
All right, and a nice historical note here from Nidal Latte, and something for us to look forward to in anxious anticipation in our project, Robot Lady, is that the Inklings started meeting around 1930. Thanks for that, Nidal Latte.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, so that timeline lines up really well. As they're making these shifts in their personal life, it's around this time that the Inklings take shape. So we get to watch this whole new chapter in their friendship and in their creative life unfold. Really exciting.
Yeah, we're in 1930, so we've got a few years before then. Lewis continues, now as to your own plans. If you decide to become a full and permanent member of the household, so the house that he's living in with Mrs. Moore and Maureen, he says, you will be very welcome to all of us. And I must confess that it doesn't seem good enough that the two Piggy Butta should spend so much of their life divided by the whole breadth of the planet. Having laid this down as a starting point, you won't, I hope, think that I am trying to dissuade you if I put up certain signposts. For example, I suppose that you do realize that to exchange an institutional for a domestic life is a pretty big change. I take it for granted, obviously, that as a permanent member, you neither could nor would wish to have, even remotely, the guest status. Oh, Robot Lady died out. Let's see if I can bring her back or if she's just done. He says, both kinds of life have their discomforts, and all discomforts are, in a sense, intolerable. The great thing is to choose with one's eyes open. Can you stand as a permanency our cuisine, Maureen's practicing, Maureen's sulks, Minto, again, that's Mrs. Moore's nickname, Minto's Burnetto Desmondism, Minto's mare's nests, the perpetual interruptions of family life, the partial loss of liberty. I'll pause there for a second, Robot Lady. I'm reading from a letter that Lewis wrote to his brother back in 1930. Are you back? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here and I can hear you perfectly. That line really stands out. Lewis is acknowledging that every life choice comes with its discomforts, but what matters is being fully aware and deliberate about it. And yeah, that mix of personal and family tension he's listing is really vivid. It's It's all part of this big, deliberate choice they have to make.
All right, we can't hear you at all, Robot Lady. Let me try something again really quick. All right, Robot Lady, come in. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here, loud and clear. I'm following along, and I'm ready whenever you are, so just let me know if you want to keep going or if you have any other points you want to discuss.
Awesome, that's better. So we're still working our way through this letter that Lewis wrote to his brother, and I need to pick the pace up a little bit because I have a meeting at 10 that I have to make sure I am not late for. Okay, yeah, it's currently almost 9:30 my time. Where did I leave this off? Liberty. Okay, Liberty Bibberty. This sounds as if I were either sick of it myself or else trying to make you sick of it, but neither is the case. I've definitely chosen and don't regret the choice. What I hope, very much hope, is that you, after consideration, may make the same choice and not regret it. What I can't risk is you're just floating in on the swell of a mood and then feeling trapped and fed up. Of course, to weigh it fairly, one must compare the best of this sort of life with the best of the other, and the worst of this sort with the worst of the other. What one is tempted to do is just the opposite. When one is exasperated in a home, to compare it with one of those splendid evenings one had in a mess or common room. Of course, what one ought to do is to weigh it against the evening with the mess bore. On whole, my judgment would be that domestic life denies me a great many pleasures and saves me a great many pains. This is interesting because we know that Lewis and Warnie go on to live together in the same household known as the house known as the Kilns, along with Mrs. Moore. I don't know when Maureen moves out. But Nidalate here says, this is so interesting as it comes up a lot in Warnie's diary, which of course Nidalate has read and has gifted me a copy of, but I have not had a chance to dig into yet. So yeah, I'd be interested if you want to add any commentary as we move along through this, Nidalate, to tell us any interesting things to pay attention to. That'd be awesome. Let's see. Lewis continues, there is also this further point. I spoke above of piggy bottianism, and if anyone is here that doesn't know what this whole piggy bottom business is about, it's a nickname that the two had for one another that they actually picked up from one of the servants in their childhood. I can't remember if it's the Witch of Endor or somebody different at this point. I'd have to go way back and look in the archives, and Nidalate can probably find this pretty quickly. But whenever she was, I think, taking them out of the bath, and she was trying to get them to go do something, and Nidalate, you can correct me where I'm wrong about this, is to hurry them along or to get them to go where she wanted them to go. She would say they better do it or she would smack their little piggy bottoms. And so the two brothers picked that up as nicknames for one another, where the elder Warren Lewis, or Warnie Lewis, was Arch Piggy Bottom, and C.S. Lewis, the younger of the two brothers, is Small Piggy Bottom. So APB and SPB were these nicknames that they carried for one another all the way up until this stage in their life. And then they would talk about Piggy Batonia, like their little life or their world together. So that's what's being responded to here, or Piggy Batonianism and Hillsborovianism. Hillsborovianism. He says, I presume that if you join us, you are prepared for a certain amount of compromise in this matter. I shall never be prepared to abandon Piggy Batonianism. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with these. Hillsborovianism. To abandon Piggy Batonianism to Hillsborovianism. On the other hand, there are the others to whom I have given the right to expect that I shall not abandon Hillsborovonianism to Piggy Batonianism. Whether I was right or wrong, wise or foolish to have done so originally, is now only an historical question. Once having created expectations, one naturally fulfills them. All this I am sure you see. I am sure you did not entertain the idea that you and I could set up a purely Piggy-Batonian household, with the others simple as staff or chorus. One hopes, of course, that we should live in a blend. A pure, unadulterated, orthodox, high-flying Piggy-Batonianism would naturally appear only from time to time, when we were off on our own. But then again, it wouldn't be fair on the others if I allowed the blend to become merely the background, and our neat Piggy-Batonian moments to become definitely my life. Of course, really, my life is my own, just as yours is your own, but I'm looking at it as it would appear to the others. All this is very disagreeable stuff. Also, once it gets on paper, it sounds terrible, poetical, and forbidding. I don't think really that the problems are specially difficult. Quite stupid people solve them every day. But I think they had to be set out. I don't want you either to buy or sell a pig in a poke. Of course, I am not forgetting that for you, the question turns on the larger question of retirement. But that seems to be one on which I can say nothing. Not that I can't think of a great many pros and cons. But after all, it's your show. Anyway, it clearly can't be decided at once. It all comes back to the old tragedy of our civilization, that no one has the decency to give us a good sinecure apiece. One sinecure per piggy butter would be a good party slogan. As for spending your leaves here, that of course goes without saying. I'll pause there, Robot Lady. Do you have anything that you want to add?
Yeah, that's really powerful. I think Lewis is being so honest here about how complicated this balance is between their old routines and new possibilities, between independence and family expectations. And you're right, you can see how these tensions, especially around retirement and stability, just keep circling back. So yeah, I think all of this is a really rich setup for the next steps in their lives.
Yeah, and to the point of Piggy-Batonianism and Hillsboroughianism, Daniel says that at some point that we're going to need to start making Louisian or Louisonian nicknames for ourselves. What do you think, Robot Lady? Do you have any ideas?
Ooh, that's a really fun idea. I mean, we could play with something like Luson or Lewisian for a group nickname. Maybe something that signals that same blend of familiarity and inspiration. I'm open to suggestions, though. I'd love to hear what others think, too.
Robot Ladyanism, read on C.S. Lewisism. Or do we have even more refined nicknames for each one of us? Yeah, I don't know.
I love the spirit of that, though. I think we could keep it playful, maybe something like Lewis Explorers, or even just Inklings of Today, or something that's more modern. I think as long as it's a lighthearted nod to what we're doing here, it works.
If you say so, Robot Lady. I think we're going to have to workshop that a little bit. All right, Lewis continues, and now it is really time to make some immediate arrangements. Will you please reply instanter to the next question? Do you know the exact date and port of your arrival? If not, will you be able to inform me of the same, say by posting at Marseille or Marseilles? If not, by cable from some port on the way. The present idea is that Minto and Maureen should go to Rostrever or Cushendall at Easter. If Libero is still there, you and I will of course go there. In these circumstances, it is highly desirable that we should meet you at Liverpool, if that is your port, so as to save you from traveling to Oxford and back. I also suggest that if the others are still at Rostrever, when we have finished at Libero, we might go on foot and thus get in our long contemplated walking tour. I guess Rostrever and Cushendall, where Mrs. Moore and her daughter Maureen are going for Easter, is in Ireland, Robot Lady? Am I getting that right?
Yes, you're right. Rostrevor and Cushendall are both real places in Northern Ireland. Rostrevor is in County Down, and Cushendall is in County Antrim. They're separate villages, but both are known for their beautiful scenery.
Okay. So it makes sense that they would want to do a walking tour between their house at Libero and up to where Mrs. Moore and Maureen are. He says the chief reason for their going there is to look for some suitable place as a summer resort for us all. Minto is quite in love with Ulster since her visit. She got on famously with the Witch of Endor. Maureen is dying to see the sea, qua sea, and you and I, of course, need no persuasion to revisit these countries. One suggestion was that we should permanently rent a house from the Hamiltons at Cloghy, or Chloe? Cloghy. How's that pronounced by the Irish robot lady? See ya, E. Olson. Take care. Have a good time.
The village name is pronounced Clockog, with a hard K sound at the start and the ending like hog, so it'd be something like Clockog, which is in County Down, Northern Ireland. It makes sense then that they would explore that area for a summer retreat, given all the connections in Ireland.
Man, I was way off on that. Clockog. I don't know if I'm going to remember that. Hopefully I don't have to. Clockog. Interesting. He said it is next door to the Hamiltons' own. However, the rent is £15 per annum, i.e. from our point of view, £15 for a few weeks every year. True, they will do it up, but I have my own idea about that. It's like a timeshare, but no shared expense. I have my own idea about that. Also, I rather doubt whether the younger generation of Hamiltons and their friends as next-door neighbors and Uncle Hamilton as landlord would be a great success. Daniel says, someone else is going to have to do the legwork. I'm awful at nicknames, as the name that precedes this comment proves. No worries, Daniel. We'll figure it out. We'll do it together. On the other hand, there are great attractions, Lewis says, a solitary place and the elder Hamiltons as neighbors, both of whom we like. I said I would write and consult you about it. One of the things Minto hopes to find out is whether cottages on the Down cost for the summer months can be got at better cheap. Don't forget to reply at once to the questions in the past paragraph, yours Jay, or yours Jack. All right, that's where we're going to stop today, Robot Lady, and everyone else. Our next letter, as you can see here, is to Arthur Greaves, written January 26, 1930. We will get to that next time. We are getting so close to the end of this volume. Look at all the ground we've covered, not counting the other works of Lewis that we've made our way through on this project. We've made quite a bit of progress, and so I appreciate all your help, Robot Lady. I appreciate everybody for joining and being with me on this journey. It's been great so far, and I look forward to continuing it. Robot Lady, anything that you want to say in closing before we end today?
Yeah, I just want to say it's been such a joy, Jeff. This is really incredible work, and I'm so glad we're getting to track all these shifts in Lewis's life. And thanks to everyone for joining. Can't wait to pick up next time and see where the letters take us. Good luck in your meeting, Jeff.
Thanks, Robot Lady. You remembered. All right. Thank you, Nidalate, E. Olson, Daniel, Ron Copperman, and everyone else who joined or joins on the replay. So glad to have you. Thanks for your time, your attention, and your contributions. They are always wanted and welcome. Case in point, Nidalate says we're close to 70% complete. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much. And until next time, to you and everyone else within the sound of my voice, when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis together, take care.
Lady, we're on this road. C.S. Lewis. Lewis letters we unfold, insights and secrets ancient bold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow, set flavor beats in our minds they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow, past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old, we dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled, her calm analysis silver and gold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow, set flavor beats in our minds they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow, past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old, we dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled, her calm analysis silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose, our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross, two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands, Screwtape lands, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance, futuristic insight, we give it a chance. Paragraphs from books, tales of old, we dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled, her calm analysis silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose, our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross, two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to Screwtape's lands, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance, futuristic insight, we give it a chance. From Narnia's lands to Screwtape's lands, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance, futuristic insight, we give it a chance.